the truth I've been carrying quietly. There are things you don't say immediately, not because they aren't important, but because they deserve the right moment. This is one of those things. I've carried it with me through ordinary days, through moments that didn't seem connected to it at all. It didn't ask for attention. It didn't demand expression. It simply stayed, patient steady, waiting for the moment when silence would no longer be honest. And now that moment is here. There's something I must tell you. Not because it will change everything, but because it explains everything. It explains the way I've slowed down around you, the way my thoughts have softened, the way urgency stopped driving my choices. It explains why things feel different without needing to be dramatic. I didn't arrive at this truth emotionally. I arrived at it consciously. That matters to me because emotions fluctuate, they rise and fall, they respond to context, to stress, to time. What I'm about to tell you didn't rise and fall, it remained. I realized it in the quiet moments first, not when we're connected or talking or sharing something meaningful. I realized it when I was alone, when there was no external influence shaping my thoughts, when my mind wandered freely and kept returning to the same place, not out of longing, but out of clarity. That's when I understood this wasn't attachment, it was alignment. There's a difference between wanting someone and recognizing someone. Wanting comes with urgency. Recognizing comes with calm. What I feel with you doesn't push me forward aggressively. It grounds me where I am. It doesn't pull me away from my life. It integrates seamlessly into it. That's rare. I need you to know that this truth didn't appear fully formed. It grew, slowly, through observation, more than imagination, through consistency rather than intensity, through noticing how my inner world responded to you over time. And my inner world became quieter. I noticed how I didn't feel the need to impress you. That surprised me. I've lived much of my life driven by momentum, by building, by proving things, sometimes to others, sometimes to myself. Around you, that impulse softened, not because I became smaller, because I became more centered. There's something powerful about being around someone who doesn't require performance, someone whose presence doesn't demand explanation or exaggeration, someone who allows you to exist as you are without questioning your pace. That's what you do. Even without trying. I want you to understand this clearly. I'm not telling you this because I expect something in return. I'm telling you because withholding it would be dishonest. And honesty matters more to me than outcomes. I realized something important while carrying this truth. It changed how I see love entirely. Love isn't the thing that overwhelms you. It's the thing that stabilizes you. It doesn't consume your focus. It refines it. I noticed how my decisions began to feel cleaner. Not easier, cleaner. I stopped negotiating with myself about what felt right. I stopped rationalizing things that didn't align. I stopped tolerating emotional noise disguised as depth. This wasn't discipline. It was clarity. You didn't make me want more. You made me want better. Better communication, better boundaries, better intention, and better doesn't rush. There's something else I must tell you. I don't feel fear when I think about you. No fear of losing control. No fear of being misunderstood. No fear of being seen. Fearlessness doesn't come from confidence. It comes from safety. I trust the way I feel around you, not because it feels good, but because it feels true. Truth doesn't shout. It settles. I want you to know that this isn't a confession meant to create pressure. I'm not handing you something fragile and asking you to hold it carefully. I'm sharing something grounded and asking you to receive it. Honestly, I don't need you to respond quickly. I don't need you to match my pace. I don't need certainty right now. What I need is integrity, and integrity means speaking when silence would distort reality. There's something freeing about telling the truth without attaching it to expectation. It allows love to exist without bargaining. Think about how often people confuse intensity with sincerity. Intensity can be manufactured. Sincerity cannot. What I feel for you hasn't needed to be amplified. It hasn't needed validation. It has simply stayed present. I realized that my sense of peace increased, not decreased, as this truth became clearer. Peace is the most honest metric I know. If something disrupts it consistently, it isn't aligned. If something deepens it quietly, it belongs. I don't see you as a solution to anything. I see you as someone I choose to walk beside, not because I need support, but because the path feels more honest with you on it. That distinction matters. There's something else. I'm not trying to define the future right now. I'm not projecting outcomes or timelines. I'm not building castles in imagination. I'm honoring the present truth without rushing it forward. That's the kind of love I believe in. Love that doesn't need to accelerate to feel valid. Love that trusts time. Love that allows things to unfold without force. I want you to know that telling you this didn't feel risky, it felt responsible. Because when you recognize something real, you don't hide it to protect yourself, you share it to respect the other person. This is the truth of caring, not as a burden. As an understanding, my love, there's something I must tell you, not to change anything, but to let what already exists breathe honestly. The meaning behind what I'm saying. When I decided to tell you this, I wasn't looking for the right words. I was looking for the right stillness. Because some truths don't want to be dressed up. They don't want intensity or urgency. They want space. Enough space to be heard without distortion. And that's the space I'm speaking from now. I need you to understand what this truth is not. It's not a demand. It's not an expectation. It's not a request for reassurance. It's not something I'm offering because I feel incomplete or unsure. It's something I'm sharing because clarity has a responsibility, to be honest. What I feel with you doesn't feel like longing. Long reaches outward, always wanting more, always feeling slightly unsatisfied with the present. What I feel feels contained, like something that already belongs where it is. I noticed how differently I began to experience time after this truth settled. Moments didn't feel like they were slipping away anymore. I didn't feel the pressure to define things quickly or push conversations toward resolution. I trusted the unfolding. That trust didn't come from optimism. It came from grounded confidence. I realized that I wasn't waiting for something to happen between us. I was already standing inside something real, and that changed everything. There's a subtle difference between wanting a future and being aligned with one. Wanting comes with urgency. Alignment comes with patience. What I feel is patient. Patient enough to allow silence. Patient enough to respect the rhythm. Patient enough to exist without explanation. I want you to know that this truth didn't make me lose focus on my life. It sharpened it. I became more intentional with my time, more selective with my energy, more honest with myself about what I will and won't carry forward. You didn't distract me. You clarified me. I noticed how often people believe love should make you feel consumed, that it should interrupt your sleep, dominate your thoughts, pull you away from your center. That version of love never appealed to me. What I value is presence without loss of self. And that's what exists here. There's something else I must tell you. I don't feel the need to convince you of anything. If this resonates, it will do so naturally. If it doesn't, forcing alignment would only distort what I respect most. Your autonomy. Love without respect isn't love. I'm not measuring your reactions. I'm not scanning for signs. I'm not interpreting pauses as distance. I trust you enough to let you process this in your own time. That trust matters to me. I realize that when something is right, you don't need to rush it. Rushing is a response to fear, and fear isn't present here. I'm not saying this because I want something to change immediately. I'm saying it because pretending neutrality would be dishonest. And honesty is a form of care. I want you to know that this truth didn't appear during an emotional high. It appeared during calm. Calm moments are where the most reliable decisions are made. I noticed how this understanding affected the way I communicate. I became more precise with my words, more attentive to impact, less reactive. That shift wasn't an effort. It was a natural result of alignment. I don't see this as a turning point. I see it as an acknowledgement of what's already present without labeling it prematurely. I'm not building narratives in my head. I'm not assigning meaning beyond what exists. I'm allowing this truth to stand exactly where it is. Unforced. I understand that hearing something like this can create weight. I don't want to place weight on you. I want to place trust. Trust in your ability to feel what you feel without obligation. Trust in your clarity. I'm not asking you to respond with certainty. I'm asking you to respond with certainty. I'm asking you to receive this without pressure. Whatever you feel after hearing it is valid, even if that feeling is uncertainty. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you've spoken honestly, not because it guarantees an outcome, because it preserves integrity. And integrity is non-negotiable for me. I want you to know something else. Even if nothing shifts outwardly after this, something has already settled inwardly for me. That doesn't make me restless. It makes me steady. I don't need reassurance to maintain this steadiness. I don't need confirmation. I need truth. And I've spoken mine. I believe that real connection doesn't require constant escalation. Sometimes it deepens simply because honesty has been allowed to exist. I'm not trying to define what this is. I'm honoring what it already feels like. And what it feels like is this. calm, clear, unforced. The kind of clarity that doesn't ask for permission to exist. My love, there's something I must tell you, and now that I've told you, I feel nothing but peace. Not because I expect something, because I honored what was real. What this truth asks of me, not of you. There's something important I need to make clear now that this truth has been spoken. It doesn't ask anything of you. It asks something of me. And that distinction matters more than words can explain. When I say there's something I must tell you, I'm not handing you a responsibility, I'm taking one. Responsibility for how I show up. Responsibility for how honestly I live. Responsibility for not hiding clarity simply because silence feels safer. That responsibility is mine alone. I don't believe love should arrive with instructions. I don't believe it should come with pressure disguised as vulnerability. And I don't believe that saying something true entitles me to a particular response. What it entitles me to is integrity. Nothing more. I want you to know that this truth didn't appear because I was searching for something to fill space. It appeared because I noticed how complete my inner world felt when I stopped avoiding it. Avoidance creates noise. Truth creates quiet. I realized that my role here isn't to steer anything. It's to remain present. Present enough to let this be what it is. Present enough to respect whatever pace feels right to you. Present enough to listen without agenda. That presence isn't passive. It's intentional. I'm not waiting for you to validate this. I'm standing in it. There's a difference. Waiting creates tension. Standing creates steadiness. And steadiness is the only place I'm willing to speak from. I've learned that when something is real, it doesn't require urgency to survive. Urgency is born from fear. What I feel carries no fear. This truth doesn't make me restless. It doesn't make me watchful. It doesn't make me question myself. It makes me attentive. Attentive to my words. Attentive to my actions. Attentive to the space between us. That attentiveness is how care becomes visible. I want you to understand that I don't see this as a risk. I see it as alignment. Risk implies potential loss. Alignment implies recognition. And recognition doesn't disappear just because it isn't reciprocated immediately. I'm not trying to preserve this truth by protecting it from reality. I'm allowing reality to interact with it naturally. That's how you know something is grounded. I don't need to interpret your reactions. I don't need to read between lines. I trust you enough to speak when you're ready. Silence isn't something I need to fill. I understand that not everything needs resolution. Some things simply need honesty. And honesty has already done its work here. I noticed something else after I spoke this truth. I didn't feel lighter because I got something off my chest. I felt grounded because I aligned my inner and outer worlds. There's peace in that alignment. I don't expect this to define us. I expect it to clarify me. Clarity doesn't narrow possibilities. It refines behavior. I will continue to show up with care. Not because I said something meaningful. Because I live meaningfully. I will continue to respect your autonomy, your timing, your inner process. Love that rushes understanding is not love, it's anxiety. I want you to know that whatever unfolds next will not feel like loss to me. Because speaking truth is never loss, even when it leads somewhere unexpected. I don't feel exposed right now. I feel honest. And honesty doesn't make me smaller, it makes me more myself. This truth doesn't change how I see you. It deepens the respect I already had. Respect for your presence, respect for your complexity, respect for your right to feel whatever you feel. I don't want you to respond from obligation. I don't want you to respond from kindness alone. If you respond, I want it to be from clarity. And clarity can't be rushed. I'm not holding my breath. I'm breathing normally. That's how I know this is real. I don't need certainty right now. I need authenticity. And I've honored that. So when I say there's something I must tell you, understand this. I told you because I trust myself. And I told you because I trust you enough not to control the outcome. Whatever happens next doesn't threaten what this already is. Because what this already is lives inside me. Grounded, quiet, true. My love, this truth wasn't meant to change you. It was meant to free me from silence. And in that freedom, I remain open. Not attached, not guarded. Open. The space I'm willing to hold for what comes next. Now that the truth has been spoken, something subtle changes. Not between us, within me. There's a quiet responsibility that comes after honesty, not the responsibility to control what happens next, but the responsibility to stay open without expectation. That's the part most people don't talk about. They speak the truth, hoping it will move something forward, shape a response, create certainty. When that certainty doesn't arrive immediately, they grow restless. They reinterpret. They pull back. They protect themselves again. That's not what this is. What comes next doesn't need to be defined. It needs to be held. And I'm willing to hold it. Gently, patiently, without trying to name it too soon. I want you to know that the space after honesty matters just as much as the honesty itself. This space is where pressure either sneaks in, or respect shows itself fully. I choose respect. I'm not filling this space with explanations. I'm not filling it with reassurance seeking. I'm not filling it with silence meant to test. I'm letting it remain open. Because openness is a form of trust. I trust that whatever this truth awakens in you will arrive in its own time. I trust that clarity doesn't need to be chased. I trust that if something real exists here, it won't disappear just because we let it breathe. This space doesn't make me uncomfortable, it makes me calm. Calm enough to keep showing up without agenda. Calm enough to let conversations remain natural. Calm enough to allow connection to exist without constantly asking where it's going. There's a quiet confidence in not needing to push, in not needing to pull, in simply staying present and allowing what's real to remain real. That confidence isn't detachment, it's maturity. I want you to know that I'm not withdrawing now that the truth is out. I'm not stepping back to protect myself. I'm not changing the way I treat you to provoke a reaction. I'm staying consistent. Consistency is the clearest signal of sincerity. I will still listen fully, still speak thoughtfully, still still value the connection without trying to secure it. The truth didn't come from urgency. So it doesn't create urgency now. I understand that hearing something honest can stir reflection. It can raise questions. It can invite reconsideration. It can even bring uncertainty to the surface. All that is allowed here. Nothing needs to be resolved immediately to be respected. I don't see uncertainty as rejection. I see it as thinking. And thinking deserves space. There's something else I want you to know. I'm not using this truth as a lens to interpret everything you do next. I'm not watching for signs. I'm not reading into tone or timing. I'm not measuring distance or closeness. I trust the integrity of the moment. This space doesn't need guarding. It doesn't need interpretation. It doesn't need direction. It needs patience. I've learned that some of the most meaningful connections deepen after the truth is spoken, not because of what is said next, but because of how both people handle the quiet that follows. The quiet reveals character. I'm choosing to handle it with steadiness, with openness, with respect for both of us. I don't want you to feel rushed toward clarity. I don't want you to feel responsible for my emotional state. I don't want you to feel like silence is a problem to solve. Silence can be a resting place.